All right, everybody, welcome back. And thank you to this fine-looking panel that I see here, all with a nice pink background. That is probably what you've always hoped for. I'm going to say a quick welcome, and then we will go ahead and get started. A few rules of engagement here, since we are in a digital space. Please keep your answers, they don't have to be short, but be mindful of time, and make sure that you're addressing the question at hand. I will start off with a few introductory questions. I'll also ask each one of you to introduce yourselves. We always like to play video chat roulette at JK, so the first one on my screen is always the first one who has to answer questions. And that just happens to be Mike Bloor today. So Mike, give us a little introduction and tell us a little bit more about you.
I was not first on your screen, first of all, we know that. Mike Bloor, California Sun. We have 21 stores out in California, and we have been in business for just coming up on 30 years.
Wow, that's awesome. Lewis Henry, you are next up on my screen. Tell us a little bit more about what you do and who you are.
I do quarantine. I do quarantine very well. And president of Devoted Creations as well, based out of Florida.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lewis, for being a part today. Jenny Backman, we have you on the line as well. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I'm Jenny Backman, and I have been in tanning for, this is my 27th year. I've been doing it a really long time, and been in business for 10 years. And I have 2 salons. I recently sold one. I had 3, but I have 2 salons now in South Carolina.
Wow, Jenny, you must have started the year you were born.
I was 17.
All right, Brandon Cardinal, we heard from you yesterday, but tell us a little bit more about you and your role with Norvell.
Everyone, it's good to be back again today. I'm glad you had me back. I'm surprised as well. I'm just kidding. With Sunless Inc. and Norvell, been in the industry 26 years. Jenny's got me by about a year. In the industry, I've been in the UV tanning side, salon owner, distributor, manufacturer. And the last 12 years, I've had the opportunity to be with Norvell, spray tanning, sunless, self-tanning world, and just glad to be here.
All right, thank you, everybody. And thank you again for being a part of our panel discussion. So to go ahead and kick this off, first of all, if you are watching our panel discussion live, you can type questions into the panel discussion side of the screen, and we will pick those questions and answer them live. But to get us started off, I'd like to hear more about what you believe, A, the most challenging, and B, the most important thing that you have either learned or accomplished in 2020. And Jenny, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, and I assume you're mainly talking about the COVID and the pandemic. Yeah, so it's definitely been a challenging year. Of course, I'm in South Carolina. We weren't quite as quick to close things down, so that helped me out a little bit. But of course, we started seeing the effects as early as really mid-February. So I think, what I've learned is that you just have to be really open-minded and kind of put your own beliefs and opinions aside and really just focus on what makes every customer feel comfortable. Which, from personally speaking, that meant, making sure that we had the screens set up, the plexiglass, and just, all the safety, sanitary requirements that we really already do. But, we definitely wanted to make sure upon our customers coming back that we had all that stuff set up. So I think for me, it was just kind of, because I had a lot of personal opinions, but I really had to, push those aside and just really think about, the customer base and what was going to be the best thing, so my customers would feel comfortable coming back. And, then just, as they've come back, I think it's just been trying to figure out ways to kind of, obviously we've seen, I think for me personally, it's been mainly a dip in like what I call the event tanners, which is like your single session people, because they're not doing anything. So, they're not going to football games and they're not going to cheerleading competitions. So I think it's just, we've been really trying to, target those people. But overall, our members have stayed with us. And I think it has a lot to do with, like I said, just being really open-minded and making sure that we have everything, as safe as it can be and making everybody feel comfortable.
Great, thank you. Mike, I would like to pose the same question to you.
Yeah, we mimic a lot of what Jenny's gone through. I think from a salon ownership point of view, this has been a difficult year. We're navigating landlords who want to be paid and vendors, and just because a store closes doesn't mean our bills stop. And so I think, as an industry, it's the same for distributors and other business people, but certainly for us, it's been challenging. When we reopened in middle of May, so out here in California, the governor exempted us from personal care services. So we were able to get open a little bit earlier, but when we opened, we lost 44% of our staff. We lost 18 out of 21 managers. I mean, our people were all over the country. Some had moved back home. It was, absolute chaos. So I think, really what it's taught us is probably to be far better prepared to really take that time and, navigate what that looks like as we open, and how do we deploy that? How do we execute it? Because I think, whether we're a business, whether we're a salon owner, it's all the same. We're either part of the problem or we're part of the solution. And so we just have to figure out which one we're going to be and then work toward that. So I think that was our biggest challenge was, our employees went away when things got shut down, and it's like somebody gave them a tablet, because when they came back, they were not the same people that they were when they left, whether it's the pandemic or all the other things that fed into that. So it's been a challenge, the employee wise. California has always been challenging from an employment point of view, but I would think that was our largest one by far.
Interesting point. And I think everybody on this call is in some way or another an employer or manages other people. I'd like to know more about how you responded to exactly what Mike brought up. Employees, reservations, concerns, carrying anxiety into the workplace, because at the end of the day, we all still have customers to serve. Interested to know more about how you've addressed that and where you're at today. Brandon, let's start with you.
Well, employees, on a spray tanning level, when you have an automated booth, if the salon was open, the automated booth was able to run. Just touching a little bit on, the positivity that UV received through virus, the initial problem with spray tanning was people just weren't going out, right? There were no events, like Jenny said. You couldn't go out and be seen at the ball field, so you didn't need to have your hair done, your nails did. You didn't need a spray tan. You didn't need that. So
I disagree, but okay.
I'm glad I hope everyone else starts to disagree as well. But, slowly people started getting used to it, starting getting rid of that fear and coming back. And, we're seeing a nice spike when it comes to spray tanning. But one thing that we had to do, we got together with our team and we brainstormed, and through Facebook Live and this virtual world, like I said yesterday, we taught salons how to sell retail products again. Sometimes when it's busy, we forget those things that we have in our back pocket to be successful. And all along, we had that elf on the shelf. We had the product sitting there. We just needed to get those to the customer. So we kind of revamped our mindset as to what was important through COVID, help salons make some money along the way. And now, unfortunately, events, most states down here in Florida, I have a wedding this weekend, so weddings are back. Some events are back. Some states are going the other way. So I think what salon owners, employees, and managers have to realize is this isn't, like you said, Brent, earlier, we're not through the woods completely yet. But if you are open, you need to make hay. And it's just important to do that right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not all of it stops. It seems like we're still having babies and getting divorced, but everything else is still on hold. Louis, what about you? How have you responded from an employee perspective, and how were you able to transition business during this time?
Well, for us, it was a little bit different. We were trying to stay ahead of the curve. As you know, and I think most of us here, as far as manufacturers, we don't just deal with the US. So we're in, almost 70 countries right now. So when it was coming from Europe, we were probably on the front line of switching over, knowing that lockdowns were coming, inevitably switching into PPE products, a lot of hand sanitizer. Luckily for us, we were able to keep all full-time staff on, which was a blessing, instead of furloughing anybody. So we haven't really had the challenges that a lot of companies have had as far as keeping staff. I mean, I know Mike touched on it, and that was it's what we're seeing across the globe right now, Mike. And you know, it's very tough, and especially California, where you're having a shutdown, a reopen, a shutdown, a reopen. And I think what a lot of people don't understand, I mean, you can get everything in line, but it's the employees and the staffing that is, I think, the most troublesome thing. I know I talked to many salon owners during, you know, from April to now, and every time somebody would get shut down, they're like, no, we're good. We've got a good staff. We've got this. And then it was losing staff again. And one of the hardest parts was getting new staff back, train them. And then what we're seeing today in certain states and certain areas is semi lockdowns happening again. And that's probably the toughest thing for, I think, an owner, is hoping to keep staff and keep them, you know, geared up and ready to come back.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about the nuts and bolts of business, I want to ask a fairly direct question of, we're all business owners or manage businesses in one way or another. I'm interested to know how you feel like you can be well prepared for the unknown, even if that means from a balance sheet perspective or an expense perspective. And what is the key to staying power, or is there one? And Mike and Jenny, I'd love to hear from you first, and then I have a few thoughts on that as well. Mike, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think sometimes, you know, it's interesting because, you know, we get a lot of calls from different people where we've helped salons all over the place. And, you know, we started out with one store just like everybody else. And so I think, you know, our industry, and I was there, you know, 30 years ago, is notorious for living for peak season. You know, it's you know, it's feast and famine. And I think, you know, if anything, what this should teach us is, you know, plan for the unexpected. You know, don't plan to say, well, my bank account's dry by, you know, November, but I can last through December to get to January, February. So I think, you know, executing a different game plan, that's going to be critical because, you know, you spoke to it. We hear it every day on the news. I think if anybody thinks, you know, this is going to be over by February 1st, you know, they haven't been, you know, turning on the TV. The other side is, you know, look at different ways to execute things. So I think what it taught us, probably one of the best things that we would tell, you know, others, is when you have a team returning and you have to do mass training very quickly. For us, you know, it's, you know, 225 employees and figuring out how to get them into the stores, you know, execute the brand correctly. So you come up with better ways to simplify things. And so when we would watch our cameras, we saw that as smart as we thought we were on the corporate side, the deployment to the employee was where it was breaking. So we had to step back a second and we had to make things simpler. We had to make them easier for somebody to grasp because our success depends upon how well they communicate that to the customer walking through the door, whether it's safety protocols or how to use equipment. And then we changed virtually every ounce of our advertising to really, we didn't directly say that UV light, well, we didn't say UV light cures COVID at all, but what we did is we skirted the benefits of UV light and vitamin D and this pandemic. We wanted to give people a really strong feeling that walking in to a tanning spa was going to be safe for them. It wasn't going to be full of virus and bacteria because for us, I don't know how it was with Jenny, but you know, we were getting hammered by all the beauty shops, the nail shops, the spas, because they weren't allowed to open and we were exempted from staying closed, so we were. So we had to make sure that the experience and difference between us was not just what people expected, but beyond what they expected.
Very interesting. Thank you for that. Jenny, how about you? Same question.
Well, for me personally, I was kind of unfortunately great with hair salons and whatnot, and we fought it the best we could, let alone me, but I wasn't successful. And so we were closed for the longest amount of time than any business, unfortunately. And of course, not only was I closed for, a long period of time for a small business, our small business is such that we have those, like Mike said, those, few months that we look so forward to. And I agree, that is the way most, I think, especially smaller salons like me, and we definitely look forward to those, seasonal months. And that's kind of how we, make our money. And then we have that savings, hopefully, to kind of get us through the slower months. So, this year having the shutdowns happen in the busiest months of the year was, quite challenging. But I know for me, we've talked about this before in these, when we've done these panels, obviously in person. And one thing that I think became so important, more so than ever in 2020, was if you don't have an EFT program, you got to get one. Because, obviously when we've talked about this before, for people that haven't had one, if you didn't have one in 2020, I don't know if you are still open, because,
Right.
at least we had that, and I'm sure like a lot of people did, we did, from what I did was I gave my customers an option. I did a, as soon as we got shut down, I basically, I wasn't going to charge people if we weren't open, but I gave them a choice. I sent out an email and I said, I can keep drafting you, and I gave them free product and credits in the store, things like that, so I could keep some money, coming in. I tried to, when you're faced with a situation like that, unfortunately, we did have to be kind of reactive. We weren't really able to be prepared. Who would have thought that would have happened? But now we have had it happen. So I think that, more than ever, it's important to have your EFT program in place. More than ever, I think it's important to, be able to reach out to your customers. I was amazed at how many people were like, you don't have to give me a lotion, just keep drafting me. I want to support you. It was really encouraging for that, for people to come. And that's, that's just, I think that was just me being honest with customers, and telling them what was going on, and I think that they maybe some were able to see past that, like, look, this is my tanning salon. I want to be able to go here when they do. I want them to be able to stay open. And I think a lot of people were understanding in that way. But, hopefully, like you said, we're not through this yet. So, I think we definitely have to be prepared as far as, again, having your EFT program, keeping, trying to maintain your members and make sure that they feel comfortable coming in there. I was watching you on your segment a minute ago, Brim, when you were talking about letting them know, what you're doing to be safe. And that really hit home with me, because I did that in the beginning, but I haven't as much now. And I think it's important because there still are people out there that are probably not coming out yet.
Absolutely.
And would like to know what you're doing. And it's almost like whenever it first happened, you told everybody those things, but now it's kind of like, oh, you can take the X's off the floor now, or, oh, well,
Right.
we kind of still make sure that we're doing those things, because we don't know what we're going to be faced with. So maybe we can, hopefully it won't happen again, but I would like to think that we would be a little bit more prepared if it does.
Yeah, I think those are both really good points. And when you're talking about being honest about what you're doing, I read a study just yesterday from the International Spa Association that said up to 40% of people are still either concerned or very concerned about going out. And the best thing that you can do to put their mind at ease is just literally tell them, walk them through your preparation process, walk them through an appointment in your salon. I think you touched on it as well, Mike, just of really understanding what's happening in the salon now more than ever. Knowing your customer journey and your staffing journey is incredibly important to be able to create some consistency. You have brand new messages that you have to give to customers. You have brand new information, a new way to train your staff. It really has come down to how well are our messages being received, and is it being done consistently? I'm seeing some great questions come through. So I'm actually going to transition to some of the questions that we have. One came through from Stacy. I'm not going to mess up that last name. She said that they dealt with COVID closures early on, but the infection rate is low. in the event that you do have to close again, how do you prepare for that and how do you continue to create revenue? I'm actually going to shoot that over to Brandon and then interested to hear from Lewis as well. Brandon, we can't hear you.
You were breaking up there. What was the question?
Sorry about that. The question is coming from a listener who has a fairly low infection rate in her area, but might be closing again anyway. What can she do to prepare and generate revenue if she does close again in the event that that happens?
Well, when it comes to spray tanning, depending on if you're handheld or mobile, and then like I alluded to earlier, retail, a lot of folks that had any spray tanning at all, took classes, were certified, and went out mobile. You can spray people back patio, garage, and places, and not have to even go into their home still. I know it's getting a little cooler in some of the states, but there are space heaters and ways to get around it. And like Jenny said, I mean, everyone thought this pandemic was going to last 30 days, then maybe 60, or 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. If you have not been able to get on your toes as opposed to sitting on your heels as a business owner, you've got to be able to bob and weave. You've got to be able to pick up the pieces, and people are still out there wanting some of these services. And then back to retail again, become the Uber of retail products, offer them to your customers, do outreach, do Facebook Live, put it on your Instagram feeds. Not only the services you continue to offer, if the pandemic hits again, the new services and ways around those. You have to be in your customer's ear, and video posting words means nothing anymore. You have to have video. So utilize your staff in making and creating those live videos, just small snippet videos. It really comes in handy. And have people, do hashtags. You've got to still create a buzz. And I'm telling you, retail, everyone on this panel produces, sells, creates retail products of some kind. And everyone watching this has gobs of it at their studio. You have to take pictures of those every single day. You can do a video and highlight a product, do a special, drop them off at people's homes, put them in little baggies out front if you're locked down. But even when we get out of lockdown, that's still important to do. We shouldn't lose sight of those things that gave us success when the doors had to be closed, because they're still going to work now, because everyone's purchasing trends have now changed for eternity. We're not going to go back to the way we bought things in the past. Amazon continues to grow. People want to buy things and see things from their phone in their hand. We cannot lose sight of that.
I think that's absolutely true. And I love what you said about being the Uber of retail. You are completely right that we will not go back to our old ways of buying. If anyone was not already fully entrenched in online buying, unlike me, you are now, because you don't have a choice. And so you really do still have the opportunity. Everyone listening today has a wide variety of retail products that are pretty exclusive to your location, right? They're products that you can't necessarily easily get anywhere else. You're the #1 provider for them in your area, whatever that is. And it's a great opportunity to drive around and make deliveries of things that you can only get in your boutique or your area. Mike, actually, I would like to hear a little bit more from you as well. I know that on the West Coast, and specifically in the state of California, you might be facing additional closures again. How are you preparing for that? And is there any revenue generating tips that you think will help you through another closure?
Yeah, and I think, Jenny certainly hit on it, and Jenny runs a great operation that, memberships are, I think sometimes, especially when we talk to other salons, they're focused in the moment. And sometimes we need to step back and look at things from 50,000 feet. So, some of the things that we, definitely know is, every salon owner, every business owner should know their burn rate of cash for when they're closed. What does it really cost to be closed? And the answer is never nothing. It costs something. You have utilities, you have insurance, you have landlords who want to be paid. How many of those landlords are willing to negotiate? So I think we probably worked harder as a executive team during the closure than we did afterwards, because we reached out to every landlord. We negotiated some ridiculous deals to work with them. You know, they're panicked. None of their tenants are paying. So it's a great opportunity to come in there and get some reduced rates. And, you know, I think Brandon really says it best, because if we think we're going back to the way things were, we're probably sorely mistaken. So knowing that, you know, I think it just begs the question, how do we define our operation moving forward? You know, I probably have a different belief than some. I think that, you know, the tanning industry, quote unquote, has evolved a little bit. And we've deployed, you know, several spa services that complement tanning. We don't forget where our base comes from, but how can we get more customers? I mean, people are stressed out more than ever before. We all know that. And we think that tanning is going to solve all of that. Now, it may for some, but there are ancillary spa services. The well system that we've brought in has been a home run, far exceeded what we thought it would do. Red light, you know, if you watch the news at all, red light has just exploded. It's gone crazy. So I think consumers are looking for different things. You know, typically, if we look back in history, whenever there's a recession, beauty does very well because people aren't traveling. So if we know that, what are we doing about it? And so, you know, we have to think of ways to engage our customer beyond ways that just used to be. There's a lot of complementary services. Brandon was saying, you know, we can go to people's homes, we can be more active. You know, we had a ton of spray bottles with disinfectant where people could, you know, pick them up, or we could give them to the out. There's a lot of things that you might not do that do anything for you publicity wise, but goodwill goes a long ways too. And so I think at the end of the day, you know, our communities keep us in business, and we have to remember that, you know, those are the people we have to be, you know, constantly, you know, we have to have a pulse on them nonstop.
So to move the conversation forward, I agree with you that consumers will not go back to their methods or habits in the past. And we will probably see another evolution in how buyers buy out there in the marketplace. Tell me a little bit more how each one of you in your various different business roles, some of you as owners, some as manufacturers, some of you as reps, are getting ready to capitalize on a new consumer mindset or a new open-mindedness from consumers. And Louis, I'll start with you.
Yeah, to touch on that, just to go back really quick, as far as not knowing if another lockdown is coming or not coming, and in what capacity. I think one of the biggest things, and because we're in lockdown, a lot of people don't know this. I mean, there were certain stores or salon owners that were able to stay open much longer than the majority. And we were in contact with a lot of them. And I mean, sometimes by states, unfortunately, Jenny being in North Carolina.
South Carolina.
You guys got looped in with beauty. And, you know, some people got lumped in with fitness and health. And I think that's pretty much, that goes back to a state thing where you might want to look at that in association or in a group of how you guys are affiliated. But I would say the people that were able to stay open longer were the ones that had a book, a memo, protocols that were in place that they could literally turn over to their city or counties or state governments and be proactive. And I can't stress that enough, where the protocols were already in place, their cleaning procedures, what they were doing, where unfortunately most tanning salon owners in the United States don't have those protocols in place in a written book that they can hand over to a city commissioner, city council, county, state legislature, and have them fight for you. Because if you don't have it in place, there's nothing you were going to do. I had a tanning salon owner chain in Washington that stayed open, I think, 4 weeks longer than any other tanning salon in that area, based because there was protocols in place. They put everything. As far as Bryn, going back to your question of what we're doing, looking at everything else, I mean, we've definitely concentrated on more spa products on the retail side that we can offer. And I, back to the Uber that Brandon mentioned, you know, there's so many ways to make yourself an essential business. If there's one thing that we've learned, if you're an essential business, you could stay open. So with that being said, is make sure that you guys are carrying your PPE items. I mean, carrying your masks, your gloves, your hand sanitizer, whatever it happens to be. I mean, I'm not saying go stock up at Sam's Club on toilet paper right now. Not saying that that might not make you an essential business, but you've got to be relevant and essential at the same time. And then, because there was so many studios across the country that had these items, and at the worst case scenario is they opened their front doors. They maybe at the time they couldn't allow people in, but they could sell retail items from their front door or by appointment.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that we've learned from this. There's other ways to generate sales and good customer loyalty without having your doors open and inviting them into TAN.
Absolutely. Actually, you touched on a point that I want to reiterate. You know, you might be scratching your head saying, I don't know how to prepare for another closure. I don't have any control. And if you step back kind of from a manufacturer perspective, we were looking at regulations from 50 different states, and some of them made sense, some of them didn't make sense. But I think Lewis is absolutely right that the more proactive you are in providing your either cleaning procedures, protocols, social distancing measures to someone who can represent you, or as a part of social distancing measures for your industry, the better off you are. It may not always work, but if you read these regulations from state to state, sometimes tanning was left out completely. Sometimes tanning was lumped in with other services. But if you were sitting back waiting for a regulator to tell you what to do to reopen instead of determining what was best for your business, you were already on the defensive. You were already on the wait and see. So I can certainly see that there would be a utility if there's opportunity, right? Sometimes you were told right up front, tanning closed completely. South Carolina is a great example of that, but there were also some really, really vague circumstances out there where I think just having your procedures in place, knowing what your protocols are, and providing that to your representatives could be very important. Want to come back to that original question as well. How do you plan to capitalize on open-mindedness within the consumer base? Jenny, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I think just to touch on the closing again, just really quick, you know, even if you weren't forced to close down, I mean, obviously the personal choices people make to not come in, you know, your year was not going to be the same, even if you weren't, because, you know, we were told, I think it was in March, you know, people were kind of voluntarily closing, you know, and and I struggled with that. I was like, should I do this? You know, am I being a bad person if I don't close? And I talked to a few people and I prayed about it, and I was like, I'm not going to close until they make me. And I'm so glad I didn't, but that gave me maybe 2 more weeks before I was forced to do so. But that being said, those 2 weeks were slow. So my point is, we all, even for those that found loopholes or whatnot, you know, we're going to obviously suffer because of people's, you know, personal decisions, you know, to not come in. So, but the question, just open-mindedness about consumer, is that the question?
Yeah, I mean, if you have plans to move forward with any changes or any diversified services, new retail products, any thoughts about how you will be able to create more revenue from a new open-mindedness from consumers?
Yeah, I think it's already been kind of touched on. I didn't go as far as personally delivering products, but I was, while, you know, when I was just sitting home every day waiting to open back up, I was getting pretty creative with, you know, videos and, you know, social media, retail products, you know, offering specials for pickup at discounted prices. And I would, you know, do like a store drop off kind of thing, and, you know, try to do it that way. And, you know, and I do think that I have, you know, as far as going forward, just to be, just getting more involved in like how to do retail, like through your website. You know, as far as like, you know, buy it now kind of, you know, I haven't done as much as gone as far as doing like shipping and that kind of thing. But I think we all have to be thinking about how we can sell directly from our website, you know, because that's what people are doing now, you know, and normally we're used to them just coming in the store to get it, but it definitely is something that, that I haven't done yet, but I think, you know, might be something that I look into just because, you know, we don't know what's going to happen going forward. And what this year has taught us is anything can happen and we need to be
Anything can
prepared.
happen. That is
Mhm.
absolutely true.
Getting stranger.
Mike, what about you? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for us, I think probably for the others, you know, we had fitness was still closed when we were allowed to open. And so that to me was just a massive opportunity to capitalize. And so we really took the opportunity to make, you know, such a great experience. I also think there is a slight pivot to wellness services. And then we looked at how to get our customers. And I think when people reopened, we just simplified everything. So we looked at our approach to our customer. We ran a great radio ad. In fact, I just pulled it up here, and it just said, you know, today there's new standards and higher expectations. With so much news on the vast evidence Sunlight has on COVID-19, we're working hard to make sure every visit exceeds your expectations. So if you see a bit of a line, it's because life loves sunlight, which we trademarked that, by the way. With
Nice.
controlled UV starting at just 99 cents, now you can afford to boost your vitamin D levels. Your immune system loves sunlight. And so we just really focused in that lane. And so when people would come in, we would tell them tanning starts at 99 cents, but you can get unlimited access to everything else for just 99 cents more, which is $59.95 a month. The first month we were back open, we sold 4,800 memberships.
Wow.
And of those, here's the most ridiculous thing of all. Of the 4,816 that we sold, 12 were $29.99 memberships. Everything else was $60 a month.
Wow.
Because we made it such a simple choice. Tanning starts at 99 cents a day. But right now, because of COVID, we're running a special, get unlimited access on everything we have in the store, including Sunless, 25% off of products and apparel for the life of your membership, and friends get to tan for free, all for just 99 cents more a day.
Wow.
And people would literally tell us, you'd have to be an idiot not to do that. But recognizing the average salon in the industry generates about $128 a year per person.
Mm-hmm.
So at $59.95 a month, we can hold somebody for about 13 months on that program. That's $720 a year for that same customer, just on their EFT draft. So I think, you know, when Jenny alluded to having a membership program, it gives you cash flow for a longer period of time. So somebody else could sell the same program for, you know, $145 a month, and maybe they get 2 months out of that customer.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they got $250 and we got $720. It took us a little bit longer to get it, but we keep our customer engaged longer. And I think those are the little things we have to think of, you know, because opening up and continuing the way things used to be, for most of us going back, I remember when we sold 1 month for 60 and that was a discount and you didn't get anything but base beds for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, our industry has evolved so much. But I think for us, the trick to reopening by far was that we had so many ancillary services. We offered the wellness system, the dry water massage. We brought in, you know, a ton of red light, the infrared, which was great because it was warm, it was inviting, people loved it. Of course, we had UV, we had Sunless. Now we have the Halo system, which is great for respiratory. So I think that's what's held our customer so that we're not getting, and that was another thing, I know I'm taking way too long, but The drop off in August through December, that's what we've got to think about. How do we keep those customers engaged? People are already afraid to go out. I think Lewis or Brandon alluded to that. So, you know, if they do, how do we make that experience so wonderful that they say, hey, that was worth me going out today? And I think those ancillary services keep people engaged. They don't add any cost to the labor side because they're all self-managed. And it allows us to keep a customer that might normally cancel in the off season. And now we're drafting them right through that January, or that August through January.
I think you're completely right with your assessment, primarily because we've all been to events throughout our entire tenures in this industry talking about how to create a seasonless season, how to create a seasonless year. And unfortunately, it's taken a year like 2020 to really start pushing us outside of the box to make that happen. But that's what we're seeing. You're hearing that your membership base is the absolutely most important thing that you can have. You're also hearing recurring themes of adding the right services and the right value to that membership base that is truly valuable, right? It truly makes sense to pay $59 a month or $49 a month. And then finally, the services that you're adding now are not seasonal. You aren't just going to TAN January through April or January through May. You're using other services all year long. And I see Brandon enthusiastically shaking his head because they've known this for a long time, right? You're getting sprayed year round. You're getting sprayed for events at Christmas and Thanksgiving and throughout the year. But this is really forcing us into a more creative space and a more risk-taking space to start really creating a year that doesn't have seasons. Because for those people who are able to do that, you're able to maintain memberships and revenues. I saw an interesting question come through from an attendee talking about just options or creative thoughts on how to implement contactless experiences. I know that I've seen a lot of creative ideas online. I know it's different from state to state, but anything specifically that you think stands out? And Mike, I'm on a bit of a delay, but I think you're waving your hand, so I'm coming to you first, that would be beneficial as far as creating a contactless experience in your business.
Yeah, the reason I was waving my hand is I think it's critical that, and Brandon, I think gets it. I know Lou does because I have known Lou for a long time, but you know, creating an environment. We talk about a year that tanning becomes our industry becomes a lifestyle, but a lifestyle isn't one in which they walk into a salon filled with bikini-clad women. That says this is great for spring break. A lifestyle is about people that are riding bikes and people that are jogging and women that are doing yoga and all of the things that people do throughout their daily life, and then embracing that so that when they walk in, that's the environment they're walking into. So I think that's huge. If we want to change a seasonality to our business, then we have to think about, you know, what are the things that we put in front of our customers' eyes? Because, you know, as a psychologist will tell you, the eyes are the gateway to the wallet. So we have to remember that. So on the contactless thing, I think, you know, we've changed a lot of our protocols. We used to make sure that everybody gets walked to their room. We have one chance to make it right. And so we wanted that experience to be perfect. So we've changed that protocol. We also make sure that regardless of the condition, everyone has to wear a mask. I think that, you know, our primary concern isn't just our guest. Our primary concern actually is our employee. And that should be for all of us, because without them, the stores don't stay open anyway. So we have to make it a great environment for them. We make sure that we have disinfectant at the counter always for not only our customers, but our employees, and making sure that, you know, we really have everything marked out for social distancing. It's been a little bit hard because right now our session counts were up for August, September, and October by massive margins. So, you know, I think some of that has to do with the fact that we really launched a really strong message on opening, and then we kept that going. But I think this year too, we have probably more wellness services than we've ever had across the entire brand. And the usage is up. We monitor that, and the occupancy loads very heavily. So, I think that, right now for us, I keep saying it, but I really believe that as an industry, wellness complements tanning so much, because you've got a customer in there, we offer them tanning, or tanning. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Well, after they bought a bottle of lotion and they've used, a hybrid bed, what else are you going to do? So you have to have another service that gets them. We have to think of bigger and better ways to create more value, to create better consumer spending. And I really believe that those session counts, and we're coming into November, and right now we're still probably 20%, 25% above last year pre-COVID.
Wow. It's very interesting. Jenny, I'm interested in the same question from you.
The original question was, I should make sure
The original question was, how are you facilitating contactless services? And was there anything special that you did? I know that we're all kind of learning and stumbling through this process together sometime, but interested to hear your expertise on the salon side as well.
Yeah, so the same as Mike said. We used to do more one-on-one walking with, especially in the like doing a tour and that kind of thing, and all those things are not happening right now. So we have we installed like plexiglass, around our stations, and mainly for check-in. It's just if there's not a new customer, and obviously you can, if a sale happens, it's still going to probably be within a 5-minute time. That's not going to be a super long exposure to the person, but obviously wearing the masks. But if there is a new customer, we're just having to, kind of use our pictures and whatnot to do the sale there at the front counter, rather than, getting one-on-one with people, unfortunately. I know I don't actually have this, but I did look into it. I know with certain software companies, I don't know if Mike has this, but you can check in without even having to talk to a attendant. But I don't have that, but I know that is a possibility. I've looked into it. I haven't actually purchased it yet. But anyhow, I know that is a possibility as well that I've started to look into. Should we have to, continue on this route. Another thing
absolutely.
I did when we opened back up, I did send out like a mass email, just laying out our policies, all, like we talked about already, just everything that we were going to do to try to instill confidence in our customers that we were taking every measure possible to keep them safe. And we did let them know that if they wanted to call us when they got there and just go straight to their tanning room, we could, let them know, that kind of thing. We did do that. And at first, some people did take advantage of that, and, and it's kind of starting to not be something, but we still have some that call and say, I'm here, can I go in, do my bed available? And that's totally fine. We're just being, open-minded and understanding of everybody's feelings, and trying to accommodate those, even if it's not, exactly our beliefs.
Sure. Actually, I want to come back to something that Brandon said earlier, which is the power of the video. You may not be able to walk into a room right now with someone to explain to them how to use a piece of equipment. But as I'm a consumer, I would love to just know that before I walk in, right? Have a little quick 30-second walk in with a live or something like that. Show me how to turn a piece of equipment on, adjust the features. That way I feel confident to do those things on my own without someone helping me, or without someone being there right there next to me. And additionally, if you are interested in more contactless operational options, Sunlink tomorrow during our third day will be touching on that as well. They have developed a tan line feature similar to what Jenny was talking about, which gives you contactless check-in, as well as payments. And from state to state, it varies. Some states were requiring this type of technology for you to be able to reopen. We've made it incredibly accessible from a pricing perspective. It is inexpensive, and we're doing that on purpose so that people can utilize what they need to be able to get reopened.
And I think
Sorry, go ahead.
I just think one of the things with the videos, to lump it all in, of what, you know, the customer is different everywhere you go. And I think one of the biggest things is the fear of why certain customers haven't come back in or are skeptical of coming in is the environment safe for me? Videos on your cleaning procedures, if you're a Facebook Live or a Facebook at the end of the day or early morning before you open up, and you know, most of the time you go to Facebook and say, we're open today. How about showing a video of what you've done to actually sanitize and clean the place? Show that there's a sanitizer in every room. And I definitely implore people and anybody on this live chat is, don't just do something to get open and forget about everything. And I'm only saying that because I've seen this for the last 3 months personally, and it kind of irritates me, where I walk into a place, I'm like, oh, wow, this place should have, first of all, it should have been this clean from day one. Now they're clean because they're open. The worst part is, go back there 2 months later, and instead of it, I'm walking into a room where there's a sanitizer on every shelf, that just because maybe I want to feel safe, and now they're not there. And it's stripped down. Now we're already forgetting of why we wound up in this situation. We need to concentrate, and I know I get aggressive when I say this, but keep doing, just like you were closed. Let's just say you were closed down for another 8 months. You should treat every day that you reopen the same way that you would to get open. And that's what the stores need to look like. That's what, and try to think of the environment that would make your customer feel safe if you were your customer.
If I could compound on that real quick.
Yeah, go
I think
ahead.
it's so important. You can go on Amazon right now and get a fisheye lens for your phone. They're about $27. And if you're not familiar with what a fisheye lens is it opens up, realtors use this to make the homes that are cozy look a lot bigger. And you
that are
can put that
cozy.
into any of your service rooms, post those on social media with your acrylic dividers, with the X's, like Jenny said, on the floor, with all of everything. So people understand what they're going to see when they arrive. And you don't need to do that, like Lewis said, post it and forget about it. That should be a daily, you know, hi, I'm Brandon, I'm here this morning, come on in. Do that every single day. Every day, whoever's working, go on live or video if you're not comfortable with doing live, and you can edit it quick and throw it up there. It takes literally seconds to engage. And I did want to mention something real quick. I know you guys are recording this. I don't know how much you're going to charge for people that weren't live, but you know, you've got some great salon owners on this panel that really know their stuff. I mean, Michael Bloor is one of the biggest mentors in our industry. So please listen to what these folks have to say.
We're actually recording the full 3-day event. We'll figure out how we can make it all available, but I promise we'll do that in an accessible way. But yes, we are recording. You actually touched on a few things that I want to pick up on. One is, we're going to keep talking about videos. We had this conversation internally about, you know, having a discomfort level with just kind of having live, unedited, uncritiqued, not perfectly staged videos going up at the beginning of the pandemic. And I can tell you that the consumer appetite for that is huge right now. People don't care if everything is perfectly staged. They don't care if you're in front of a set like I am now. They want to see what's going on, right? Even more so now. We're all dressed up today, but if you see us on Monday morning, we'll all be in jeans and a t-shirt, and you see each other in a totally different way now than you did pre-pandemic. So don't be afraid of putting yourself out there and just showing people what you're really doing. I also wanted to echo back to something that Lewis said, which is these cleaning procedures is what we should have been doing all along. Back in March, when all of these videos were coming out of online about washing your hands, I don't know if you had the same reaction I did, but I thought to myself, what in the world have we been doing up until this point, right? But the same thing is true about cleaning your salon. People are now looking in every corner. They're looking for every fingerprint. They're looking for every area that might be dirty or has been used before they got there, treat every day like opening day. You set yourself up and put yourself in such a better position if you are scrutinized by authorities that might be closing your business, or if you don't have procedures in place. Really, truly treat every day like opening day. We have about 5 minutes left, and I want to take this opportunity. First of all, thank you all for being with us today. Thank you for engaging with us all week long. This is brand new for a lot of us, but we've had a really successful week so far, and we're excited about day 3 tomorrow. I'd be interested to know from each of you, if there is one lesson that you're taking forward out of 2020, what is it and why? Brandon, we'll start with you.
One lesson that I'm learning, and I've jotted a lot of notes down today, is capitalize. Somebody said it earlier, capitalize on opportunity. One of the things as a salon owner you have to do is you've got to do an ROI for every single room. Like Michael said, you cannot just be a UV operator anymore. You've got to be wide. You've got to tap into the regimen of our customers' daily uses and help change those uses. EFTs, if you're not doing EFTs on all of your services, you are missing out. If it works on one, it will work on all of them. Spray tanning, red light, UV, you name it, but really capitalize and think outside of the box. A lot of these ideas, you should be just with chill bumps today, listening to some of these ideas and get your juices flowing and work with your teams.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brandon. Lewis, how about you?
Well, I think one of the things is, you know, that if I had to take something out of 2020 that I would like to capitalize on and that I've learned is that when we don't have, or let me start with a positive, when we do have positive UV light vitamin D without the negative that we always run into every year with the skin cancer and everything during May and this, do you see the positivity that our industry can have? You know, it's one of these things. I've never seen so many people on social media share the positivity of UV light until they're closed down and in a pandemic. I would implore everyone to share that message every day. I mean, it's nothing to share any scientific report from around the world on just the positive effects of UV light.
That's right.
And I'll tell you right now, the customers are reacting to it globally. They are visiting. And I mean, some of the stores didn't get open in May, but I can tell you, if you talk to salon owners that were able to open in May, unbelievable. Their salons were packed around the world. Why? Because they're like, well, you know what? If there's anything I can do to boost my immune system and possibly counterbalance this, then I'm going to get as much UV light as I can.
Absolutely. I just want to echo that for a moment. You don't have to be intimidated by the idea of posting your own words. There is more good press out there than there has been that I've ever seen about the tanning industry. Share the good press. Share the good news. And we're making some of those resources that we've used this week available to you on our website as well. Anything that I was talking about earlier, there's 2 pages worth of resources. All I believe are completely shareable in your salons as well. Jenny, how about you? Lesson that you're taking with you?
I felt like Lewis read my mind, because that's exactly what I was going to talk about, is when, you know, not just with business, but anything in my life, when bad things happen, I always try to see what the good is out of it. And in this situation, I feel like that is one good thing that has happened, is that all of a sudden, you know, we're not the black sheep anymore. You know, we're not being scrutinized, and we kind of can come out of that shell and just kind of talk about this again, and people will listen to us, you know. And again, where it's okay to say the positive things about it. And so that's one positive thing that I think, you know, moving forward, may be a really good thing for us. And, you know, I don't do numbers like Mike does, like as perfect as he does, but I will say that I've seen an increase in my business from last year. Not, again, the event tanners are what's down for us. It's those single session people, but overall, you know, as far as revenue and customer count, we are ahead, just not those single session people. So people are still doing it. And I think they're coming out in grows, because even for people that they're more open-minded to receiving the information, and I think they realize that this is going to makes them feel good. And you know, I think in a lot of ways too, they're just like, you know what, I'm just going to live my life, and tanning is not what we should be worried about anymore. I mean,
Not our biggest problem anymore.
but you know what I mean? Like, I mean, not that I've ever
Yeah.
believed, but that's the kind of the shadow that we have, you know, is like that over our heads, you know, is that you know, you kind of get that, well, where people just have, because of what the media, you know, and everything has done, we've just always felt like we sort of were the black sheep. And I do feel like one positive is that going forward, maybe we can, you know, we maybe see a crazy busy 2021. Think positive.
I agree with you. I think not only think positive, but I think this is a genuine opportunity for market growth like we haven't seen in decades. To bring in people who might be willing to try UV or willing to try tanning in combination with other services. We haven't had that kind of market growth opportunity in a very, very long time. And I'm with you. You know, someone comes out now and says, oh, the sun's bad for you. Prove it. We've all been inside for 9 months, right? And look at where we are now. The impetus really is on the naysayer now to prove the claims that have been made all these years about how bad the sun is for you. Clearly, that's not the case, right? We've all lived through the opposite of that for the last few months. Mike, I'll go ahead and wrap it up with you. What's one lesson that you're carrying with you out of 2020?
God, there's a ton of them, but I think, you know, to isolate one would be, you know, capitalize on the relationships that you have. I mean, you have people like Lou and Brandon who deal with not dozens of salons, they deal with hundreds, Lou probably thousands. And so they get to see what the good guys are doing that the others are failing at, and capitalize on those relationships. You know, call your distributors, talk to their sales reps. You know, Brandon sees, you know, thousands of salons. He can tell you what he can tell you what not to do, and he can tell you what to do. So, you know, oftentimes the reason people become franchisees is because the learning curve is so damn expensive. Well, we can avoid that whole curve if we capitalize on the relationships we already have. We have equipment relationships with Ergoline. These guys they know who's growing and who's not. And then the other thing, I just read this article on, you know, who will survive this thing. And one of the business guys was saying, you know, during this pandemic, during great economic times, you know, everybody kind of rides this wave. But when there's a little recession, which we saw back in 2008, you know, the great will do good, the good will do okay, and the okay will be bankrupt. And so, you know, the easiest way to identify where we are is look at us pre-COVID. Were we really great at what we did? Were we good at what we did? Or were we okay just kind of riding the wave? Because if we're okay, you're not going to be able to just be okay coming out of this. You've got to be good or great. And so, you know, look, and sometimes the hardest place to look is in the mirror. You know, some of the reasons we're not growing could be because of us. We think our way's the best. We're not willing to employ or engage any other way to do things. And so I really think that, you know, I would echo the sentiments of every single person here that coming out of this, it's kind of like having a free shot at exploiting the benefits of UV light. And there are those that are going to wait for others to do it for them. And there are those that are they may not do it perfectly, but sitting back and doing nothing isn't going to do your salon any justice either. So get out there and make a difference about the way people feel about what we do. It's, you know, you've got a free ticket right now. I would capitalize on it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Mike. I just saw a really nice comment come through, and I think everybody can see the comments, but Suzette Darville, we'd love to know where you're from. She said, my May, June, July, and August sales have doubled since last year, and I just purchased the building that I'm in. Congratulations. That is great information to hear. And we'd love to know more about where you're from. We'd love to send you some swag as well. But just to dogleg off of that comment and wrap it up for the day, you know, if I had to say one out of the many, many lessons that I've learned this year, it's keep showing up. You might feel like you're out of ideas. You might feel like you're fatigued. You might feel like you don't know what to do next, but keep showing up, not only for your employees, but for your customers, and keep showing up for yourself. Keep challenging your own ways of thinking. One of the most difficult things to do this year has really, what Mike said, truly look in the mirror and say, where can I take some more risks? Where can I try something new? Where can I show up again tomorrow when I already feel burned out today? Because you guys, there will be another side to this. And we will look back on this knowing that we are some of the scrappiest leaders out there in the industry and ready for anything. Thank you so much again to the panel for participating. Your support and your information and feedback, your expertise means the world to us. And I know it does to our participants as well. Be prepared to show up for day 3 tomorrow of the fully virtual Ergoline experience. We will be back here at 11 a.m. Central. We promise to use your time wisely yet again. I hope you've enjoyed what we've had for you today, the content we've had for you today. Thank you again to all of our panelists, and have a great afternoon. Bye, guys.